There is no emotional difference in the human brain between something that cannot happen and something that has a 1 in 100 chance of happening. The number changes. The feeling does not. Hold that. In the 1970s, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky were not studying irrationality as a curiosity. They were building the architecture of a theory, prospect theory, that would eventually dismantle the economic assumption that human beings process probability the way a calculator does, linearly, proportionally, accurately. The baseline assumption they were testing against was clean and intuitive. If something has a 2% chance of occurring, it should feel roughly twice as threatening as something with a 1% chance. If something has a 50% chance, it should feel roughly 50 times more concerning than the 1% scenario. Probability in, proportional feeling out. That was the expected model. It was also almost entirely wrong. What the experiments revealed was a probability weighting function, a curve, not a line. And the distortions at the edges of that curve are where human decision-making quietly breaks down every single day in ways the person making the decision never detects. The specific finding is this. When Kahneman and Tversky mapped how people actually respond to probability across a range from 0 to 100%, they did not find a diagonal line. They found a curve that heavily overweights low probabilities and underweights high ones. A 1% chance of loss produces a fear response that is disproportionate, not slightly disproportionate, but dramatically, measurably disproportionate compared to a 10% chance. People will pay significantly more to eliminate a 1% risk than the mathematics of that risk justifies. And simultaneously, the emotional distance between 0% and 1%, between impossible and barely possible, is nearly non-existent to the feeling brain. The gap that matters neurologically is not between 0 and 1, it is between 0 and 1.01. The moment something becomes imaginable is the moment it becomes real, regardless of the number attached to it. Kahneman named two specific effects operating at opposite ends of this curve: the possibility effect, the documented tendency to overweight outcomes that are merely possible, 1%, 2%, 3% probabilities, relative to their actual likelihood. And the certainty effect, the tendency to overweight outcomes that are nearly certain, 98, 99%, and to treat a reduction from certainty as disproportionately catastrophic. Both effects are asymmetric distortions. Both are consistent across populations. Both have been replicated. They are not quirks, they are features of the standard human probability processing system. The mechanism that produces this is not mysterious once you understand what System 1, the fast, automatic, non-deliberative processing architecture, actually operates on. System 1 does not hold numbers. It cannot. A percentage is an abstraction. Abstractions require deliberate processing, working memory, active cognitive effort. What System 1 holds is images, scenarios, narratives. When the probability of a plane crash is described as 0.001%, System 1 does not register the number. It registers the image, fire, falling, the end. And that image, once constructed, has the same emotional mass whether the number attached to it is 0.001% or 1% or 3%. The image is the unit of emotional measurement, not the number. This is why the 0% to 1% transition is categorically different from the 1% to 2% transition, even though both represent an equal 1-point increase in probability. The first transition is the transition from unimaginable to imaginable, from no image to an image. And once the image exists, probability becomes nearly irrelevant to the feeling brain. What System 2 knows, the deliberative, slow, analytical processor, is that 1% is close to 0. What System 1 knows is that it now has a picture of something bad happening. These two systems are running simultaneously in the same skull, and they are not consulting each other. Here is where this appears in documented behavior, stated precisely. A person reads a medication label and encounters the phrase, "Rare side effects include liver damage." The clinical probability attached to that outcome is 0.1%. They discontinue the medication or refuse to begin it. The same person consumes alcohol at a frequency that places them in a statistical category associated with a 30% increased probability of the same hepatic outcome. The difference is not the probability. The difference is that one scenario produced an image and the other did not. A person pays annually for identity theft insurance against an event with documented occurrence rates below 1% for their demographic. The same person has not updated their beneficiary designations in 11 years, a failure mode with consequences that are not rare at all. One fear was imaginable. One consequence was abstract. A parent refuses to allow a child to participate in an activity with a documented injury rate of 0.8% per participant per year. The same parent does not track that their child spends an average of 6 hours daily in sedentary screen-based activity, a behavior pattern associated with developmental outcomes that are not marginal. The visible risk received the image. The invisible risk did not. These are not poor decisions made by irrational people. They are the predictable output of a brain processing probability exactly as it was built to process it. The downstream costs are not evenly distributed, and this is worth stating plainly. Resources, time, money, attention, cognitive load spent managing 0.something% fears are resources not spent on higher probability threats. Research in behavioral economics documents this consistently. Households with the fewest resources are simultaneously the most targeted by low-probability, high-imagery risk products, certain insurance categories, lottery systems, extended warranty structures, and the least able to absorb the opportunity cost of that misallocation. The probability distortion is expensive. The people least equipped to absorb expense pay the highest price for it. There is also a chronic physiological cost. A brain that cannot emotionally distinguish 0% from 1% is a brain that cannot fully achieve threat state resolution. The threat activation system requires a clear zero, a genuine impossibility, to disengage. 1%, emotionally identical to 0% in its numeric feel, but now carrying an image, keeps that system in low-grade activation. This is not a metaphor for anxiety. This is a mechanistic description of what chronic low-grade threat activation does to cortisol regulation, attentional narrowing, and decision fatigue over time. And then there is the identity cost, perhaps the least quantifiable and the most significant. The person who believes they are evidence-based, rational, and calibrated in their assessments is running this distortion continuously. The belief is sincere, the behavior is documented. The gap between them is not moral failure. It is the structural consequence of having two processing systems that do not share a common language for probability. The evidence-based self lives in System 2. The decisions get made in System 1. You now know this mechanism exists. That information sits at approximately 1% of your total working knowledge about how your mind operates. It is new. It arrived recently. It is vivid. It produced an image. Notice how significant it feels. Your feeling brain just demonstrated the finding.